Hello, and welcome to Breast Cancer Conversations, a podcast brought to you by survivingbreastcancer.org. I am Laura Carfing, breast cancer survivor and founder of survivingbreastcancer.org, a nonprofit organization providing community, education, and resources to empower those diagnosed with breast cancer and their caregivers from day one and beyond. Hello, my friends. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Breast Cancer Conversations. I am so excited that you join us week after week. And I just want to let you guys know a couple shout outs. If you don't know already, hop on over to our website, survivingbreastcancer.org/events, and you will find the lineup of all of the programs and events that we offer virtually that are 100% free to support you no matter where you are on this crazy wild ride of breast cancer. Additionally, I would encourage you, we are really trying to grow our engagement and our connections on social media. So I will link to all of our social media in the show notes below, but please follow us on Instagram at survivingbreastcancer.org, all one word. If you're interested more in my personal life, you can also follow me and our co-founder William at Laura and Will on Instagram as well. We post a lot of stuff about just the life of running a nonprofit, working crazy hours because we all have day jobs as well. And we do this out of the passion and love for our community. We also love to eat food. And quick side note, we recently just got married. We eloped in the Grand Canyon. So lots of good stuff. Follow us at Laura and Will. If there's content or anything that you're most interested in, I love to hear from you. So feel free to DM me on social or feel free to send me an email at laura@survivingbreastcancer.org. Diving into today's episode, I am excited that Abigail Johnson is back and will be leading us every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern live on Facebook if you follow survivingbreastcancer.org. We also stream on our YouTube channel, sometimes on Instagram, but you can always find us on our Facebook page. And every other Wednesday this fall, we are going to be continuing our NBC webinar series where we focus on topics that are pertinent to the NBC community. So today I am excited because we are taking a deep dive into parenting with NBC. Abigail leads us in a beautiful discussion today with Carrie Danny. Carrie Danny is a homeschool educator, support group facilitator, and neurodiversity advocate. She is living with metastatic breast cancer that has spread throughout her ribs, hips, spine, and skull in 2017. She is currently stable on oral chemotherapy. She is a mom of 2 amazing kids with high support needs. Herself, children, and co-parent are all dealing with ADHD. Every day of her life is a challenge and a gift that she cherishes. Welcome to the conversation.
Thank you, Laura, for, as always, supporting the things that are important to the NBC community. I always appreciate organizations that are willing to understand that the NBC experience is just different from the early stage experience. So always appreciate you, Laura, for that. So let's just dive right in. So Carrie, would you like to introduce yourself to our audience?
Hello, everyone. My name is Carrie Danny. I am a mother of 2. I have 2 daughters. We just celebrated their birthday this past weekend, and that's always super exciting. I get a little carried away, quite honestly, but I want to celebrate and I want it to be memorable. And so they just turned 7 and 9, and both of my daughters are autistic, and the youngest was nonverbal until age 4. And so she, in addition to my illness, she's needed speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, developmental therapy, a lot. She was kicked out of 2 preschools for behavior. But that is what keeps me going, more than anything, because they need me, and it has to be me. But I try to remind myself it gets to be me. I get to be there through all the tears, all the messes, all the sass, all the attitude that we gave our moms. But it has changed my perspective on those difficult times in parenting and those hard moments too. I am just really grateful for everything, for every day, and to be there with them. And that's been my biggest motivation to keep myself going. Um, I was diagnosed with early stage breast cancer in May of 2017, and then it was stage 4 by the end of the year. So that happened very quickly, and my children were young, and I've been stage 4 most of their lives, and so it's just our lives now, where we just have to go with it. A little bit more just about me. I also have a pet bearded dragon. Really love her. We also probably should claim all of the stray cats in the neighborhood because we feed them and buy them houses in the winter. And we just put down our dog that we had for 15 years. We just put her down last week.
I'm so sorry. Oh my goodness.
That's so difficult, but again, I'm just grateful. That's a long time with one pup, and we're very, very grateful. So yeah, just focusing on, celebrating each day and being present and being grateful for the things that I do have.
I love how you've reframed these are difficult things that I'm dealing with my children, but you reframe it to be, but I get to do these things with my children. That's just such a great way of changing the perspective on these things that can be very, very difficult. So, most of you all know me. I moderate and host these webinars. And sometimes I talk about my children. I have 2 boys. They were 1 and 3 when I was diagnosed in 2017 with stage 4 de novo metastatic breast cancer. And they don't really remember what it was like prior to my diagnosis. My older son, a little bit. He turned 4 kind of in the middle of the debacle that was my initial diagnosis. But one of my children is ADHD. And so we've also had to navigate some of those medical things. And I don't know about you, Carrie, but I find that being a patient is almost easier sometimes than being the parent sitting there trying to advocate for your child, especially when they aren't always able to explain what's going on. And when you have a nonverbal child, like you talked about, Carrie, that can be even more complicated when they can't, even more so, like developmentally they're young, but also they don't have the ability to talk about what's going on with them. So obviously we're going to be talking a bit more about young children, but we'll throw in some resources because I know that some people who might be watching might have older children or might have grandchildren. And I think it tends to be a little different at the different developmental stages, how we talk to kids, how we explain to kids, and what we tell them. But along those lines, Carrie, would you like to share what happened and how did you handle telling your kids about your diagnosis?
Yeah, similarly to you, they were so young. They were age 2, and the baby was eight months, I think, under a year. And so there wasn't even really a telling them right at first because, like you said, they didn't understand. So for me, it's been more of a lot of ongoing conversations as they grow up. Because like you said, they are changing all the time. So I kind of try to take their lead on it. And when they ask questions, then I answer and I'm honest and I try to be positive, but I'm honest with them. But I don't necessarily bring it up a lot or push it on them. Like I said, they'll ask questions and they'll start putting it together when they are ready to understand. So but yeah, it's just little by little, I think, of these ongoing conversations, because in the beginning they didn't even think about it or understand at all. And they definitely started to notice more and more as they got older, even where my little one my when it was time to take my medicine at night, she would say, "Oh, no, I don't want you to take your medicine. Then you're going to go to sleep and you're not going to play with me." And they were already, associating. But again, I tried to just involve them in those things. So my little one's really good about when I have an alarm on my phone that goes off because I cannot remember to take my medicine every 12 hours. Um, and I lose my phone all the time too. And so she'll come to me with, Mom, holding my mom, time to take your medicine. And I homeschool them. So we try to just use everything for learning opportunities. So sometimes she'll help me count all my medicine when you have the big tray with all the days and so we'll count them. Okay, I need 3 of these and 2 of these. We just, because like I said, it is normal for us. It has to be. And but yeah, so I've tried to just involve them, more and more as they get older. So helping out with my medicine is a good one. Or I did. I know we got and they gave us 2. So each of my girls got a Brave Barbie, which is a bald Barbie doll. It's real Barbie too, Barbie brand, but she's bald, she's beautiful. She comes with wigs, like a fun one and like a professional more one. But got those a couple years ago now, but I remember it was a really beautiful conversation with my girls because they'd never seen a doll like that. And they liked her and but they were a little confused or they had questions. And we talked about how even without hair, they were really beautiful. They were women, they were moms, they were, and it was just, like I said, I remember that, when they were maybe, I want to say they were like around 5, 6, those, they were a little bit younger, but that was such a great way for them to see it and understand it and it not be a scary thing. That I've not had hair at sometimes I do. And so, and, but yeah, it just made it more fun and, I think easier for them to understand and even easier for it, like opened up for them to ask questions about it. And it was just great. So that, and it's just like an online form and those are free. And they loved those dolls. We still have them.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So Laura will share the link that you shared with us, Carrie, and thank you for sharing that because those visible signs of somebody being sick can often be the things that kids will focus on. I remember quite vividly when my mom went through breast cancer treatment now about 20 years ago. One of my siblings, one of my sisters, was in middle school and she did not want my mom to walk around bald. She really wanted my mom to wear a wig, especially out in public. And she was old enough to express those things. When I was bald the first time, my dad and my husband both shaved their heads. And so everybody was bald. And so it wasn't as daunting, I think, because my kids were able to see other people were having, obviously it was for different reasons that they shaved their heads, but, they were able to see more than one person who didn't have hair. But while I don't have older children, thinking about my sister's reaction, I suspect that different kids are going to have different reactions at different ages to those visible signs of illness and maybe want to handle that in different ways. I only wore a wig one time because it was too hot and I didn't want to do that anymore.
Can't
But
do it. Won't do it.
It's fine. It was okay.
It's hot.
Exactly.
Can't do it.
And it grows back. And, I think that it's also, I'm sure you think about this too, Carrie, thinking about demonstrating to our kids the whole idea that everyone is beautiful, right? That there are different sizes and different shapes of people and all of those things. But not maybe passing on some of those hangups that we might have about our bodies. Do you talk about that with your kids?
Yeah, yes, we do. And I think, you're right, because it's, we want our kids to be confident and love themselves, but a lot of us have a really critical inner voice, really. I had really negative self-talk for quite a while, and that was something I had to really work on because I didn't want my daughters doing that, and so I've been a lot less judgmental and critical of myself, which is really cool because it's made me less judgmental of everyone else. Because I'm just like, no, we're all doing our best. We're all, trying to get through. Um, but yeah, we do talk a lot about, like you said, just how people are different and look different. And I think it opened up cool conversations also about how girls can have short hair, men can have long hair. They had a friend who he just recently cut it, but he's 9, the same as my oldest, and he always had long, beautiful, flowing hair. His whole, since he was little, and there's other, people we would know, but yeah, it just gave us all so much more freedom to be like, okay, you don't have to have your hair any certain way because of anything, just like I said, for the friends who are boys, for and they'll talk about, and so we would talk. I was because sometimes they'll say, again, just ask questions, and I would say, well, yeah, I'm a girl and I have really short hair, and my girls do always tell me that I'm beautiful, which is so sweet. Um, so yeah, it's been, like I said, it's been really great. I think kind of giving them just really open minds and to think, yeah, people can look all kinds of different ways. I have blue hair just because I can, and it's fun, and I've never had blue hair before.
That's great. That's great. So when there have been other adults in your children's lives, I know you said you're homeschooling, so maybe they're not around teachers or other adults, but how do you handle telling those other adults about what's going on in your life so that they are aware of what your kids might be dealing with?
Yeah. Um, yeah, that's true. They're not, they're homeschooled, so they are with me a lot. But we are really fortunate to have um, some hours for in-home support services and respite care. So we do have a close friend. That's been difficult, of course, to find someone reliable and someone who can handle the girls. And we've this is not our first, not our first care provider, but it seems to be going well. Um, but I have I have shared a lot with, I just, yeah, I'm very open about, what I need help with. And that's been hard. Like when I first got sick, not only did I not want to ask for help because I'm the mom and I'm the fixer and I'm the doer but I didn't even know how to ask for help. It was, it was so hard. I had to learn because and people will say, oh, let us know what you need, anything you need. But you're like, I was so overwhelmed. I didn't even know what I needed
Yeah.
and nobody was stepping up. So I had to think of really specific things like, no, I need help washing the dishes because my chemo is flaring my hand foot syndrome and my hands are peeling and burning but just and reach out and ask and so I've had friends come and stay with us sometimes. We now have just as more recently the in-home care provider, and that's been really helpful. And but yeah, just being really honest about, like I said, like I want to I want to do it all. I want to keep my house clean and spend time with my kids and look fabulous, and but it's not. You gotta just choose one maybe and go with
At least one per day, right? One per
right.
day.
Yeah. So just that to like letting go of like I have to be this perfect mom. I
Mhm.
have to do all the things. No, I need help, and I've um, I've had to kind of, I guess, I don't know, humble myself or just admit that I need help. But there's been friends and family that have stepped up to make a freezer meal or um, come help me clean up after the birthday party or just because I don't have the energy and I really want to still do those big things. I want to have a big party, and I want to have, so I think just being honest about what I need, and my kids too, with their behavior issues or their speech issues or their, challenges. Yeah. Just being really honest. There's a lot of good books that I have found on that as well, like on autism specifically for my kids, or on, declarative language, like how to talk to not, raise stress. And even for my friends, for my children's friends, I've given their parents books and like highlighted sections where it's like, this is, what would help, this is what to avoid doing, or, and their little friends have been amazing. I mean, they're kids, the 10-year-old that I'm thinking of is the best one. At their party just a couple days ago, she was awesome with my little one. When she got overwhelmed, when it was too loud, she took her to the back, she helped her, she kept her calm. And they've been really understanding, but we've had to educate people. People do not know anything about cancer.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing about metastatic, or what that means, or like what that means for the future of your treatment, or they're so confused. And same with autism, neurodivergence, ADHD. So I have, I guess, taken it upon myself to educate. But I think when people understand more what's going on, they've been really supportive. They have, but they don't come to you with that knowledge and understanding. So like I said, finding books or, short YouTube videos, or however people best digest things, and just sharing information and saying this, this is what works. And a big part of that for me has been just doing what is right for me and my family, even if that is different than what my parents did, what grandma thinks, what, Perfect Moms Club thinks.
Where's that?
I don't know. I'm not in it.
Me neither.
Right. But, there's just so much judgment, pressure,
Yes.
advice, unsolicited advice. And so learning to ignore that and focus on doing, what is right for me, with my health, with my energy, and what my kids really need. And even like I said, if that's really different than maybe what I was, told, what I grew up with, just, and that has made us so much happier. Just doing our own, doing our own thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. So my kids are in public school. And so every year, what I've done is I have a letter that I add to every year, basically introducing my child to that particular teacher, and then giving a little bit of background on what's going on with my diagnosis. The idea being, I would like the adults in my children's life to have a bit of an idea about what might be going on so that they can best support my children. And so in my letter, I'll say things like, I often am hospitalized, or, I have lots of doctor's appointments, I'll have scans, I'll have, different medications, that sort of thing. And I will tell you when there is a challenge like that, so that then if my child is acting up, or if my child is more emotional, or if my child is doing something different when they're at school, that their teachers are aware of this situation and can adjust to those challenges, or adjust to those things that my children might be encountering. We do that a little bit less with coaches and other people that they're involved with, just because, again, not always necessary. But, things like when I was hospitalized last year with sepsis, and, we had to tell the teachers, hey, I'm in the hospital. My kids are aware I'm in the hospital. And so that gave them a bit of an understanding, just to be more flexible with them. At the elementary age, there's not always language, and we work hard to give them the language to say I'm upset, to say I'm worried, to say I'm anxious, to name some of those feelings. But they're not probably going to go to the teacher and say, I'm upset today, so fill in the blank. And so I find that educating the people who are going to be around my children has been significant, so that they're flexible, so that they understand. I know that not everybody is comfortable with sharing personal medical information with other people. I have just found that to be the most productive way of making sure that my kids get the flexibility that they need when they are starting to struggle. Thank God there hasn't been anything too bad, but like I said, last year was pretty significant because I was in the hospital for a little over a week, and that was a long time to be away from them. Yeah. So, but it's always, I find these conversations with other parents can be really interesting, right? Because having a diagnosis like this, and you are trying to decide how much to share, I find I'm always like, for a second, when I meet some of these new parents, or when I meet some of these other adults that are involved in my children's lives, how do you handle that, Carrie?
Yeah, I would have to agree. I think just the more information, the better, you know. But then to your point, like not too much information because it sounds scary. Like nobody even wants to hear the word cancer.
Yeah.
And like even I try to avoid saying it sometimes, and I'm like, it's not, gonna surprise me at this point, but so you know what I mean? Like yeah, we don't want to worry, we don't want to stress them out, but I agree. It's been even with our homeschooling, but my kids do swimming every summer,
Mhm.
and yeah, I have been honest with their coach because I can't even get in the water to swim because again, my hand foot syndrome is so bad and the chlorine, and I can't even do it. And I'm like,
You must be on Zalota also then.
I am.
I was gonna say that sounds familiar.
I am. How did you know? Oh gosh, yeah. And so I'm like, so you can picture me at the pool. They're doing their swim classes, and I'm like literally crying because I'm so happy that they found a thing that they love and they're doing it and they're trying so hard and they're like focused. And I can't do it. I can't get in the pool with them every day. I can't stay in there. I can literally like jump in and jump out and then sit on the side and throw things to them or try to come up with games or watch
Right,
them
right.
but I can't do that. And so I did share with the swim teacher because I think I was like clearly very emotional, but I wanted them to know that it meant a lot to us too, and that they've had the same swim teacher for 2 years now, and they love the girls. And um and then same, my oldest started horseback riding and she's really loving that. And, yeah, and I have shared with them because just makes everything a little easier too, because again, I have to avoid the sun and we're doing all these outdoor things. And I'm not trying to um, I don't, it's confusing, I think, for people because like there was a day I was so exhausted at swim class from the heat. It gets like 110 where I live during summer. And I had to go lay down in the bleachers because I really felt like I was going to faint, which
Sure.
happens. And so I lay down, and then the girls thought I was asleep. And it was like this whole, it turned into a whole kind of debacle because then the girls were like shouting at me, and I was like, I'm not asleep. I'm not asleep. But I wouldn't normally just go sleep during their practice. I want to watch them. I want to be there. So it's been helpful, I think, for people to understand what's going on. Or I
Yeah.
bring my chair that has, it's like a folding chair, but it has a shade canopy for
Nice.
shade, which is
Yeah.
so awesome. And I've just quickly kind of explained. And even in the beginning, I'll just maybe even say, on my medication that I'm on, I can't be in a lot of sunlight, and kind of keep it simple. But then if it's someone we're working with more and more, I'll
Yeah.
usually just kind of keep telling them. But yeah, it's made it a lot easier for me, instead of, I don't know, letting them come up with their own reasons why I'm
Right.
sleeping.
Just being upfront about that. Yeah. But as
Yeah.
a corollary, right? Then how then so I'll just give an example. Last year, my son, he's in fifth grade this year, so he was in fourth grade last year, was on a play date. And somehow the subject of cancer came up, and he's like, oh yeah, my mom has cancer. And I was not present for this conversation. I got the information from the other parent, who was like, oh my gosh, how do I handle this situation? And then my son proceeded to talk about how, and you know what, they don't fund research for metastatic breast cancer, and they should, and blah, blah, blah. So clearly he'd been listening. But it was fascinating to me. I know, right? Like raising a little,
like hashtag more for stage 4. Okay, he's on it.
But the only people that his friends had been exposed to who had cancer were people who were elderly and people who had passed. And so that mom was very worried, like, how do I navigate this? Because to many children, rightly or wrongly, they're often sheltered. They're not given the whole story. They may not know, and so to them, at least this group of boys, cancer equaled death. And so they got all worried. And so how do you handle that when there are other children who might be exposed to this concept of cancer and someone living with cancer?
Yeah. Oh, great question. Oh gosh. Yeah, it's tough. That made me think of so many things. My mom is a 2-time cancer survivor. And when I was 11, she got breast cancer the first time. And same thing as an adult. This was quite a long time ago. I'm in my 40s, but she, same thing. She thought that this is it. This is the end, because her grandmother had passed away from cancer, and she just thought, oh no, this is the end. And she prepared me at 11, like to lose her. She was a single mom. And, just so she was like really, really truly preparing me. But then she beat it, and she got cancer again and had to have much more treatment, and then she beat it again. And so I think for me, for myself, even when I did go stage 4, even when, I'm like, okay, it doesn't have to, because I'm like, I had such a different experience growing up, watching my mom beat it and then beat it again. And, I was her caregiver as a child, really, because there was nobody else there. But so for me, even as a kid, I talked about cancer. I went to seminars with her to learn about the different, reconstructive surgery options. I went to radiation. I went to support groups. I went, and
you were immersed as a child.
I was, and sometimes I think, like, why does my whole life have to be about cancer? Like, I'm sick of it already. But it just, no getting away with it, so no getting away from it. And and so just total radical acceptance. Like, this is my life. I have cancer, but I really want to live my life, even as it is, but so for me, I think I know, like, kids can talk about cancer. Kids can have those conversations. I did it, and yeah, so same as adults, but obviously, phrased differently and things. But I do try to have that very open policy, open, honest communication. So because some of their friends are a little older than them as well, or, friends and cousins, older than my kids, but still children, but they have a better understanding of what I'm going through, and what chemo is, and what, just all these things. So they'll sometimes ask questions too. And I try to just answer it honestly. I try to be positive, like I said, and tell them how my medication is working, how, because there was a whole over a year that I was in a wheelchair pretty much every day, because my nerve damage was so bad, my hand and foot was so bad, and my muscle tone so low, just everything. And so then, yeah, their friends had questions like, hey, what's going on? They've known me since they were babies. And so, yeah, they did have a lot of questions. And I encourage that, quite honestly. I'm like, yeah, well, let's talk about it. It's, and they've pushed me in the wheelchair. They've, I try to try to answer
Let
them.
them participate in
And
the
yeah, and not be
well.
right, not be scared of it or think, oh, that's weird or that's for some type of other people. Like, no, anybody could get
Yeah.
cancer, anybody could be disabled, anybody could, who knows what the future holds. So but their friends have been really supportive too. The other kids, or like I said, my nieces, nephews, my friends' kids. My best friend's daughter, she's a year older than my oldest. Best friends with both my girls. They're so close, and she's wonderful with them. She grew her hair really, really, really long, and I thought, she was just growing it long. But I don't know, she must have spent a year growing it so long. And then she donated it to, and I can't think of the charity now. But it's one that specifically makes wigs
Locks
for.
of Love? Is it the Locks of Love
It's
one? No, a
it's not
different one?
that one.
Okay.
It's like wigs for kids, but it's specifically for
Aw,
children of cancer. And she grew it so
lovely.
long, and she cut her hair, donated it to the charity, and she got like a certificate of appreciation and thank you and stuff, and she did it. You can do it in honor of someone, and she did it in honor of me. And so they sent me to, the certificate with my name and her name. And I just still think this was like 2 summers ago, I think, and it was just the sweetest thing. And so,
It's
yeah, even
beautiful.
the kids have found ways to be supportive and loving, and
Yeah. I think a lot of times about how in here in our culture in the US, we hide away the things that are hard, right? It used to be that when people died, that that happened in the home, that happened with everybody being involved. Now we hide that away. We do it with birth too, right? Birth and breastfeeding and all of that. We hide these things away. And so a couple of years into my diagnosis, I went on a little bit of a rampage to find all the people I could find who's had a parent that passed away from cancer. And my burning question for them was, what would you have wanted your mom, dad, uncle, grandfather, whatever, do differently, better? What went well, what went bad? And no matter how old the people were that I talked to, no matter how long it had been since they had a parent or a loved one pass away from cancer, every single person used almost exactly the same language. They said they hid things from me, and I knew stuff because I listened. You never know who's lurking behind the door when you're having a conversation with someone else or with a doctor or whatever. Every single one of them, in various their own words, shared with me that they knew a whole lot more than they were told because they were listening. And because their families did not share things with them, they filled in the details with their active imaginations. And so I've really tried to take that to heart because I'm not a quiet person. No one who knows me would think that I was a quiet person. I do a lot of advocacy. I'm, talking to drug companies and my insurance company and, helping other patients and all of that. So I'm talking about these things in our home. And so, of course, my kids hear. And of course, they are then, thinking about those things. And so we've found it really, really important to make sure that we're remembering to have those conversations with them and really explain because we know they have questions and we know they're listening
yeah.
because they're all listening to all of the things. And of course, they repeat every bad word you say and forget all the things that you're saying over and over and over again, right? That this is just
Oh yes.
personal child experience. But I wanted to shift into I know for me, when I was initially diagnosed, I had to have titanium rods put in both femurs. And so I was not moving. Like they had me in a wheelchair, they had me on crutches. It was a significant kind of immediate loss of mobility. And you mentioned some of those things as well. And so how have you needed to make adjustments in your parenting to accommodate the fact that your body just behaves differently now? Other,
Yeah.
other than the sleeping on the bleachers, right?
Yes. Quite literally. Yeah, I it's definitely changed it a lot. thought I was going to be this really active mom. When my first baby was born, I had the jogging stroller and I was out jogging, and I don't even know who that is anymore. I can't jog. When I first became stage 4, my kids were, almost 1 and almost 3. And I could not pick up the baby. I couldn't even pick her up because I had lost between the cancer and the chemo, but I lost so much weight and it triggered hyperthyroid. So I was having thyroid problems and just I couldn't pick up my own baby, and it was devastating. I'm like, I'm a mom. They need me. And it was, it's been difficult to, to shift like, okay, well, how am I going to do this? And, quite honestly, we've just, I've just invited them into bed with me most of the time. And, I would say, okay, pick out a book and I'll read it to you. And then they started just getting books and bringing them to me in bed because even if I wasn't asleep, I just had to lay down. I just had to rest. I had to get off my feet a lot. Or I was just in bed a lot. So they'll pick out books and they'll come to me and we'll read them. And it's the modern age, so they don't always want to read books. So they'll ask to look up funny animals on Instagram, and we'll be Googling like corgi butts or, bumblebees sleeping in flowers, or like, we'll just look up, silly animals. We'll look up chonky puppies or just, but we just lay there. They get in with me and we scroll and we look at funny stuff, or they bring their video game, their Switch, and they get in bed with me and I watch them play video games. I don't love that. I'll be honest. I don't, watch, but I do love it because they want to share it with me and they want to be with me and they want to involve me in what they're doing. And I can't play video games 'cause I suck at them. But I mean, when there's been so many days, countless days, that I did not have the energy to get out of bed or get out of my wheelchair or go outside. And, but I love that. I love when we look at animals together or read a book or just do, those things. And then I really made a point to be like, I'm going to get out there and do stuff with them. So, I remember, one time I went in my wheelchair to the llama farm because my one kid is obsessed with animals, and there's this llama farm we go to pretty often. There was a baby llama born, very exciting, and it's not paved or anything. It's a farm, but it's all flat. And I said, what the heck? Let's do it.
Yeah.
Hold up the manual wheelchair in the trunk, and the kids pushed me. I pushed myself a little. But we did it. We went to the farm and
that's awesome. Carrie, Jolynn is commenting that she started the same practice about 5 years ago, and she and her 13-year-old daughter still do that at night. So that is a durable kind of thing to do. But it's so important. What you're mentioning is that it's not about what you're doing. It's about connecting and about having that individual time with your kids, even if you're not doing something active. I know I was super active and boys are a little different than girls. Just from the beginning, they tend to be a little more physical, that sort of thing. And so I was
so rowdy.
It happens with everybody. My kids were teaching the little girls to like climb on things and jump off of things because that did not occur to these girls that are friends of mine had. So they've always been really, really active. And, initially that was something that I bonded with them on was, being active, that sort of thing. And my oldest, who was 4 when I was diagnosed, was always very concerned. He's like, Mommy, when are they going to fix your run so you can run with me? When are they going to fix your run? And that was something that was super important to him at the time. But now he's 10 and he doesn't worry about my run anymore because I couldn't keep up with him anyway. But just that understanding that, yes, it looks different. Parenting looks different but still connecting with our kids, still having that quality one-on-one time, still having those things that you do, like watch funny videos. We watch a lot of cat videos around here. And but that is still parenting, and that is still connecting with your kids, and that is still creating those moments that will stick with them and they will remember. So I wanted to shift a little bit and talk about legacy, because as much as we want to be in the moment, as much as we want to have hope, as much as we are all hoping that MBC becomes something that's chronic versus something that will end our lives, unfortunately, we know the reality that we're facing. And I will never agree with people who think cancer is a gift. Like, that is a hill I will die on, because I can't wrap my brain around that kind of thought process. However, I do think one of the silver linings, certainly that I've experienced, is that we're aware that something is serious and something could end our lives. And so that gives us the gift of time, or the gift of knowledge, so that we can do something. We can do some things in order to preserve our legacy. So what are some things that you've done, Carrie, with your girls, or planning for them?
Yeah, I have two things I definitely want to mention. So if I forget, remind me I had a second point. But one thing is just buying our house. We bought our house, even though I was already diagnosed. I already was stage 4, and it's a 30-year mortgage. And it's, like you said, really hard sometimes to think about the long term and the future. But I grew up in apartments. It was not safe. And then we, my, we've never bought a house. And so it was the first house we bought just a couple of years ago. And that's just been so important to have something for our girls and something to leave them, and just the shelter and everything. And they sometimes draw on the walls or do, and I'm like, you know what? Go for it. We own the place. Like,
That's okay, right? Yeah, absolutely.
and then we'll clean it later, and but hopefully they'll help. But just having something like that to give them has meant a lot, especially, like I said, with me not growing up in a house or having anything like that. So that's important, and we're trying to like take care of the house. And what's interesting also about this, that I have to say is definitely a big adjustment to my parenting, is that after buying the house, my co-parent, my children's father, and I actually split up. We had been together, oh gosh, I don't know, I think 15, 16 years, but the cancer and a lot of things were very stressful, and we just, we ultimately decided to divorce. But we have kept, and will, I'm sure, for quite a while, we've kept living together, because our lives are complicated. We need each other. I quit working, and I'm on disability, which has been so great for my health. I rest more, and I can just take better care of myself. And it's reduced my pain and my side effects. And I'm home with my kids to homeschool them. And I have so much more time with them. So I am thankful for that, but I don't have a lot of income. Mm-hmm. And then my co-parent, he works, but he needs help with the kids, and it would be very stressful for the kids going back and forth. And ultimately, I don't want to drop them off at their dad's. I want to say goodnight to them. I want to, be there every morning when they wake up. And so their dad and I, we've been divorced for almost 4 years.
Wow.
We 3.5, and we still live together, and we plan to continue doing that. And it was difficult in the beginning.
I bet. Yeah.
But really, I'm glad that my kids have both of their parents there every day. And we like to say that our marriage did end, but we're still a family. We're committed to our family. We take family vacations together, and we just,
Yeah. Yeah.
so that's been big adjustment. Didn't see that one coming, but ultimately I am really grateful for it. And it's kind of forced my ex-husband and I to um, just communicate better, and just we've
Sure.
both just focused on our self-care and the kids. And then yeah, our relationship improved. So that's
That's
been,
wonderful.
it's been, like I said, I just feel like, cancer changes everything about your
There's
life. And
a
there's
legacy
no,
for your kids that they can see that you guys made the best decision for each of you as individuals and didn't try to stick it out just cuz. I was listening to NPR the other day, and there's some new literature coming out about this concept of nesting, which is when there are parents who are divorcing to maintain the family residence, maintain the children living there, and then the parents come and go. Maybe they get an apartment that then they go back and forth with. And there are some studies, there's some literature that makes it seem like that might actually be better for kids than shuttling back and forth to different households. So kudos to the two of you for putting your children and your family first, before your individual needs. But you mentioned that there were two things. So what was the
yes.
other thing?
Thank you, because I have the ADHD
That's
myself,
my
and
story.
sometimes I'm like, what were we? Plus that and chemo brain, it gets really bad.
Compounded. Yep, absolutely.
But yes, I definitely had another great thing I wanted to share, because I have recently started working with a death doula.
Hmm.
So, which, like a birth doula, but a death doula that helps you do, end of life review, death plans, not only for what you would want in your final weeks, days, hours,
Hmm.
but afterwards, what do you want done? And it's so thorough and detailed. And um, I could do that on my own. I could, but for me, it's been really helpful having this death doula that is pushing me along, no pressure, but checking in and because I want to do it. And I, of course, met with NBC. We were just, forced to confront these things. We're forced to think about end of life and our children without us, and all of these things we don't want to think about. But so even though I wanted to make my will and my death plans and things, I was still putting it off, putting it off. So this
As
death
so many
doula,
of us do.
right? The death doula has been great, and we meet, or sometimes it's on Zoom, and there's, specific questions. There was like meditations we did, there was some writing prompts, and then this whole really detailed, plan. But it's been great to think about what I want to leave to my daughters, very specifically what I want to happen to. I plan to be buried as a tree.
Very nice. Very
Mhm.
California.
Yep, yes, I'm a California girl. I can't deny it. But yeah, I want to be buried as a tree. They're on our property, and so I'll just always be there, and they can, come,
That's lovely.
come be there with me. And but yeah, and then the death doula is also a ghostwriter, so helping me write a book to really leave behind, just my advice, my stories I want to share, memories, whatever, just all kinds of things that I want them, not just my daughters, especially my daughters, really all my loved ones, but
Yeah.
I think we're writing it like to my daughters in the future.
Mhm. That's beautiful and such great foreshadowing, because in 2 weeks at our next webinar, we will be having a death doula come talk about the value of having someone like that come alongside, right? That the whole doula idea is somebody that's coming alongside as a helper as you go through a transition, like becoming a mom or transitioning otherwise. So stay tuned for that, because that is going to be a really, really cool conversation. I think she's just a really amazing person. Um, but I love this whole idea of being very intentional, right? About what we're leaving behind for our kids. And I will share with you a friend of mine. Um, this really impacted me. So she unexpectedly lost her husband to brain cancer, and this was many years ago. And they had no videos or auditory, any tapes of his voice, except for their answering machine cassette tape, right? This is a little while ago. That little answering machine cassette tape that had his voice on it. And she said they wore out that cassette tape by listening, just wanting to hear his voice, she and her children. And so I have found it really important to think about all the different ways people can take remember somebody, right? So certainly writing is one way. Another way is to preserve our literal voices, right? Another way is to preserve our images, or to have a record of us being with our children. And so a couple things that I've done, every year, I have my husband give me a professional photo shoot for Mother's Day. I don't want all the tchotchkes or all the other little things, because that doesn't mean as much anymore. But having a professional photographer come in and document me being with my kids every year for Mother's Day has become a tradition that I kind of wish I had thought about that before, because of course, who's taking the pictures? The mom is usually taking the pictures, right? And legitimately, if I am caught in a picture that someone else is taking, I'm always making a weird face, or my mouth is open, or something like that. So being very intentional about having those professional photo shoots has been something that's been really significant for us. I also worked with an organization called Through My Eyes, THRU, My Eyes. They're out of New York. And so they had a licensed mental health counselor, or it might have been a psychologist, some mental health person, interviewed me on camera, and really delved into, what are the things for my childhood that were very impactful, and those other things. Things that, quite frankly, you might forget to say, right? Unless somebody was asking those questions. Another great resource is something called Storyworth. And you can gift this to somebody. It's about $50. And for a year, they get an email with a question once a week, or you can have it be more frequent. And they can respond to the email, they can provide pictures, etc. And at the end of the year, you get a bound book with all of those questions, all of those answers, all of those pictures. So again, something that is a keepsake. Another thing that I've done is I came up with a list and solicited a lot of input on what are those important milestones or those important days when you want to talk to your mom. So things like you break up with somebody for the first time, you fail your first test, you graduate from college, you get married, you meet somebody, the love of your life, for the first time. And so I've assembled cards for each of those important moments, or just, they had a bad day. So that they would have a card from me with information, or, some saying something. So, things that will be something that will be a resource for them later on in life. For those of us who have a genetic predisposition for cancer, one thing that has been, I think, a little difficult for me to wrap my head around is that it's not ethical to test children for diseases that would only affect them as an adult. Like you have to wait until they're 18 and they can make that decision. But the way that things are with MBC, the likelihood of me being here to help them walk through a genetic predisposition for cancer, which they may receive from me because I have one, that has been something that I've struggled with. And so I've, written letters and things like that. And, certainly my husband knows how important I think it is for them to know if they carry the same genetic predisposition that I do. So just a few examples of the things that we've done. And I am sure that all of you have so many more ideas. And so I would invite each of you to send us. You can send an email to Laura at survivingbreastcancer.org. You can send an email to me, Abigail at survivingbreastcancer.org, and share with us, what are you doing to maintain your legacy for your children? What are the things that you think are really important to pass on to your children. It certainly could be money, it could be property, it could be jewelry, it could be anything. But what are those things? And I would love us to be able to have some ideas on the blog for that. So we talked about the death doula coming in 2 weeks. I also wanted to talk about and let you all know that on November 8th, we will be welcoming a representative from Bright Spot Network. And that was actually one of the things that Carrie shared with us that she wanted to share with all of you. But Bright Spot is an amazing organization that focuses on supporting children when they have a parent with cancer. They have lots of resources, and Carissa is going to be coming to talk about that. We'll have a representative from Living Beyond Breast Cancer to talk about their Reading for Reassurance program. Bright Spot has a very similar thing where you tell them the age of your child and they send you books that you can read with your children. And it's just a great starting place, right? Just like the Barbie, just, something else that's not you saying something, but something that helps your children have that conversation. And we'll also be welcoming on November 8th an author who is about to publish a book on talking with children about metastatic breast cancer. So as if you're listening and you're a parent, you probably are aware that, yes, there are a few books, but there are not enough. And they don't have enough information about those of us who are going to be in treatment forever, right? Most of the books that are written are about, it's this specific period in time and it's done, and then mommy is okay. But for those of us who are in treatment forever, it's a little bit of a different conversation. So Sarah Olschler is going to be joining us. We'll probably be raffling off one of her books, which I'm super excited about. So please feel free to join us for that conversation. But we want to leave you with these resources, and we want to talk with all of you about these things that we've discovered so that you have a place to go, so that you have a place to, ask questions, get support. Most therapists, especially when you have young kids, therapy is not really something, talk therapy, right? Doesn't really work for kids, especially if they're not verbal or if they're very young. And so, that is another resource, though, is obtaining a licensed professional to help your child process all of these things and have a safe space to process that. A lot of times there are resources through guidance counselors at schools and things like that can be helpful as well. So just wanting to leave everyone with some practical things. I hope you've learned a little bit today. And Carrie, thank you so much for being so transparent and sharing about your experience with your girls and with MBC. It's just been a lovely conversation.
Before we conclude, Abigail, do you want to give a shout out for what we have lined up and in store this October?
During the month of October, Breast Cancer Awareness Month, SBC does a wonderful job of highlighting those of us who are living with metastatic breast cancer. And so if you want to share your story, please feel free to send that over to Laura. Again, Laura at survivingbreastcancer.org. There's a blog. She's got a weekly newsletter. There's all kinds of ways for you to communicate those things that are important to you. And again, just wanted to point out, if you've got resources that you've used as parenting while you're parenting with MBC, if you've got suggestions in terms of organizations, at SBC, we partner with people who are doing an amazing job in their niche, in their lane, and we'd love to highlight and share other organizations that are doing an amazing job. So please feel free to send those. Really, 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 I mean it. Please feel free to share those things. I do. I really do. So we're doing this twice a month now. On a Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. And so I'm super excited about the lineup for the rest of September, for October, November. And so I hope you'll join us for another one of these discussions. And anybody's suggestions in terms of who we might bring on to have a discussion with, or who you think would be great to provide resources or information, we are always eager and open to highlighting the legitimate, what is it like to live with a terminal diagnosis that is hanging over your head? What is it like to be a person and have to carry that and have to interact with the world and kids and spouses and family members and friends and random strangers and all of that? So if you have those ideas, we are our ears are open and we would love to hear from you.
And thank you everyone for listening to our show. I would like to acknowledge that all of the information on our podcast are from personal experiences and are not a substitute for professional medical advice. You should always contact your medical care team. If you're looking for specific topics or would like to be a guest on our show, please feel free to reach out to me. My email is laura@survivingbreastcancer.org. Until next time, keep on thriving.